Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius on a wonderful Thursday. I am John Ledyard from PewterReport.com. With me to kick off the show is Scott Reynolds from PewterReport.com, and then we've got Casey Hudson and JC Allen joining a little bit later, and the topic is going to stay the same throughout, in addition to answering your questions as we do every single Thursday. We are also talking about the Bucs players who need to step up against the Saints, Scott, because, just be honest, a lot of Bucs players haven't stepped up in this matchup nearly enough, especially in the offensive side of the ball, and so we need to talk about it. We're going to talk about players on both sides, but especially on offense, it feels like they've been a little slacking against the Saints.
Yeah, you know who doesn't slack, though, at any point in time? Celsius. At my peach 5 today, John, right? It's just outside the top 5. It's not
promised
like
it.
I did. It's not like, I fell out of favor with orange or the creamsicle or tropical vibe. Those are all of my top 5. But sometimes you just want like a little change of pace, right?
Yeah.
And I think the Buccaneers need a change of pace from their normal routine against the Saints in the regular season, right? I mean, the Saints have just owned the Buccaneers in the regular season. Now, the playoffs were a different story. Celsius is a different story. So maybe me changing it up and going with a different vibe this week with the peach vibe, maybe that's what's needed for the Buccaneers to get over the hump. I don't know.
I've got tropical vibe right here. As you can see on the screen, there's a lot of vibes from Celsius. Fuji apple pear, strawberry guava, wild berry. I mean, the list goes on and on. Watermelon, orange. There's so many good flavors. So you can check them out yourself. The best energy drink out there, folks. We're not lying to you. We're not leading you astray. No sugar. They give you the boost you need without the crash. They're good for you. It's great stuff from Celsius, and you can get it in a ton of tasty flavors. You can go to Celsius.com and find the store located or find out where they are near you, or use the banner ads over at PewterReport.com. Do the Amazon subscribe and save option, save a little bit of money, have these wonderful beverages coming to your door on a regular basis as well. So it's great stuff from Celsius, and let's hope it's great stuff for the Bucs this Sunday, Scott, because we've mentioned, I think Bruce Arians 2 for 7 against Sean Payton since he came over and started coaching. Well, I guess maybe even before. I think he's not had much success in this matchup. And so, this is one where you're going to have to look at the matchup and say, okay, on paper this time around, the Bucs have a greater talent advantage than any other time that they've played the Saints.
Yes.
They've still had some talent advantages at other times, but they have not had it like they'll have it in this game, especially at key positions. And that's got to matter a lot, right, Scott?
Yeah, you would think so. Again, I remember last year for the Sunday night game. Granted, it was earlier in the season. It was the 1st of November rather than around the midway point of December, halfway through the year. When the Saints came to town, I fully expected the Buccaneers to rise up and beat the bully finally. And it certainly seemed like they would do it at Raymond James Stadium on Sunday Night Football. And it didn't happen. It was ridiculous. It was 38-3 beat down. Drew Brees called it a whooping on Twitter this week, which, it was.
Yeah.
It was. The Bucs got their revenge in the playoffs, right? And knocking out Drew Brees and the Saints in that NFC divisional playoff game. I kind of expected the Bucs to continue the beatdowns in New Orleans. I predicted the Buccaneers to beat the Saints on Halloween. It didn't happen, right? I do think this is going to be a win, though. I shared that with you yesterday on the podcast. I think it's going to be a pretty close win, but the coaching staff has to step up. But it's not just the coaches, right? It's not just Bruce Arians, and it's not just Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich. The players have to step up, right? So which players need to really step up the most, right?
Yeah, and I think that one thing that we kind of disagreed on last time after these two teams played, that I think I've come closer to your way of seeing it at least, was that in this matchup, I think last meeting regular season, the coaches were closer to figuring out the Saints than we've ever seen them. I agree with you on the offensive side, the defensive side, but now I look back on and think, I'm like, man, Trevor Siemian threw for like 159 yards, and there were penalties all over the place. So it was a combination of like unluckiness in some ways, dumb penalties, and there were some things schematically I think could have been better defensively and probably will be. But I do look at that and say, okay, coaching-wise, I think they were closer to solving things last time they've ever been. Players didn't execute the way that they necessarily should have. Plus, there was a lot of calls that went against them in that game, and it impacts things when you're not playing your A game.
Right.
And so yeah, I do look at this and say, I was going to be different and say a coach today for, who needs to step up in this matchup, but I'm going to acknowledge that they need to be better, but I am going to focus on players, I think, today when we do these, like who needs to step up, because I do think that's where most of the onus is.
Yeah, it's the case, because I agree. You look at the offensive production, the point production, the yardage production on the offensive side. I think Byron Leftwich called his best game against the Saints so far, and even in that playoff win in New Orleans, John, when the Bucs scored 30 points, they had 3 possessions inside the Saints part of the field thanks to Buccaneer takeaways. So it's not like the Buccaneers had to drive 80 yards in New Orleans and get touchdowns on the board. They did the job in relatively short field situations due to those 4 takeaways by the Bucs defense. And by the way, that was the difference in that game. The Bucs had a 4-0 takeaway advantage, a turnover margin advantage in that playoff game, 4-0. Yet they still only beat the Saints by 10 points. So that's how close these games are. So I'm going to give you my first player on offense that needs to step up. Then I'll talk about the defensive player. And in between then, I'm going to tell you guys about a new partner of ours for this week. It's a special promotion for Buccaneer fans. So hang on to that in just a second. I'll get to that. It's ASX.
Yeah. Do we know the answer to this question down here? Would home playoff tickets go on sale Sunday night if the Bucs win? Do we know that?
No, because
they'd have to know the date still, right?
Yes,
I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
they still have to wait till the actual date is
announced. And that's something the league does. That's not something that the NFL or that the teams do individually. That's something that the league puts into place. So the league will give the Buccaneers the go ahead to put those on sale, but all playoff games are league games, not Buccaneer games. So,
now for those games, will they wait until the exact matchup is defined to release the sale of the tickets for those playoff games? Because
that's a good question, John.
Yeah, they will know that the Buccaneers. I don't know whether they'll know. They obviously don't know. Is it Saturday, Sunday? What they're doing a weird Monday night thing that's so stupid, Like, I'm not sure. Yeah. So I don't think so, Jay. That might take a little bit more time.
Yeah. The reason why I'm laughing is because the Bucs have not had a home playoff game since 2007. So it's been a while.
Well, yeah, I mean, technically it's Super Bowl, but I mean, well, wait, Washington was that? Well, no, that we're in Washington for that game. Yeah. All 3 road. And then
all 3 games were on the road last year. So
which obviously,
so the last time, whoops, sorry, we've got a phone call here.
Who's calling you on the show? While you're on the show? Oh man, is it? You wouldn't have told us it was a phone call. Some juicy information.
That's privileged and confidential information.
Wow,
might have been a Buccaneer source. I'll have to get it back to.
I was gonna say now. Yeah, I know you've been knocking down the doors lately, so I'm just I'm waiting to hear. All right, we'll get to it on another show. Maybe we'll talk about it. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Yep. But all right, your first Buck that you think needs to step up this week against the Saints.
Well, and hopefully the sprained ankle allows him to play in this game where we're kind of monitoring Leonard Fournette's injury status because he's got a sprained ankle from his best showing of the year, John, that 100-yard performance, over 100 yards with a 47-yard touchdown against the Bills. Leonard Fournette is a player. When I listen, the obvious choices here, and it's fine if you say it or if Casey or JC says it later in the show. It's fine to say Tom Brady needs to step up because there've been a lot of turnovers on his part. It's fine to say Devin White needs to step up because of the 3 personal foul penalties that he had in the last game. And but the guys I'm going to go with, when I really looked at what's been different in all of these games dating back to last year's regular season, the regular season game this year, and the playoff game, Leonard Fournette has been a difference maker. And here's why. In the very first matchup, in Leonard's first game as a Buccaneer, week 1, along with Tom Brady, week 1, the Buccaneers lost in New Orleans in 2020. 5 carries, 5 yards, 1 catch, 14 yards. In the rematch, which saw the Buccaneers, I think, set a record for the fewest number of rushing attempts in a game, that 38-3 beatdown last year in Tampa, 1 carry, 0 yards, 6 catches, 41 yards. In the playoff game, right, the third game of the Bucs Saints series last year, not the wild card, but the playoff win, 17 carries, 63 yards, John, 5 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown. See the difference?
Yeah.
Then you go back to the Halloween game this year, 8 carries, 26 yards for Lenny, 3 catches, 17 yards, kind of a pedestrian performance, had around 43 total yards. So the one game that sticks out like a sore thumb was that Buccaneer win in New Orleans when Lenny had over 100 combined yards and a key touchdown. So I think Leonard Fournette is a player that really has to step up and be the guy that we've seen him be over the last 3 games, where he's had 2 100-yard rushing games versus the Colts and the Bills, then had a receiving touchdown and about 100 combined yards in Atlanta. So I think Leonard Fournette's a player on offense that really has to step up.
It's an interesting one. I think when he's given those opportunities, he'll need to. I especially in the passing game, like that's going to be a part of what they do if the Saints defend the Bucs how they typically have, trying to take away big plays as much as they have.
Yeah,
there'll be those opportunities for Lenny, and he's got to make the most of them in those situations. Also, as a pass protector, Saints don't send pressure a ton, but when they do send pressure, he'll need to be involved, and they will be creative. So, yeah, he is kind of a key factor in this game. I'll give you my first offensive player.
And hang on one second, John. We're learning from Matt Matera that Leonard Fournette didn't practice today. So without Giovanni Bernard,
that's from I wanted to just add a qualifying that Matt only sees like the warm up, the stretch period of practice.
True.
So it's possible he was limited.
Yeah.
We just won't know until the injury report comes out in a little bit here.
Exactly. Well said. But the thing is he's not exactly healthy right now. We could admit that. He was not a full go in practice today after missing Wednesday's walkthrough. But the thing is, what makes Fournette even more valuable this week is without Giovanni Bernard, if Ronald Jones had to play, that means Ronald Jones would have to be either on pass protection downs. That's a scary proposition. So that's
Keyshawn Vaughan.
Yeah, that speaks to Fournette's value in this game. I think he's got to play in this game, even if he's not anywhere close to 100%, just for the protection value on third downs, John.
Right. It'd be surprising to me if he didn't. We'll see what the injury report says. It should be out any minute now, so we'll see. But I think he'll play. Just listening to Aaron's tone of voice when he addressed yesterday, I think he'll play. My guess is here, Aaron's talked so much about being healthy, and he's bought so into the sports science, taking care of players and all that kind of stuff. I just think with some of these players who have a lot of reps or really smart or things really well, like I just don't think he feels like they need to practice if they're hurt at all. So I think he's just gonna what last week, hardly anybody practiced, and then they did limited on Friday for a bunch of them, and then they were good to go.
Yep.
And so that's what I think we'll see, but I could be totally wrong. So we'll see. I think it wasn't just him too, by the way. I think it was Winfield and Sherman.
Correct.
Matt says he didn't when he was at practice today, he didn't see Winfield or Sherman or Jamel Dean either. So we'll just have to wait and see on those guys.
Surprise,
Jamel Dean, we got to get some answers tomorrow from Bruce Arians. This is crazy. We don't know what's going on in that situation. So
agreed.
My guy that needs to step up, and then I'll let you do, because I know you want to talk about this exciting new sponsor, and I want to hear about it too. But my guy that needs to step up is Rob Gronkowski. And it is shocking, but he's actually not played well against the Saints. Basically in his career, back in 2017, if you can remember that far back, when he was with the Patriots, he played the Saints, and that was obviously not a very long time ago.
Right.
And he had 6 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown. But that's the only time he's played the Saints and produced. The last 2 games for the Patriots came in 2012 or 2020, sorry. Last 2 games against the Saints that he played, and he played for the Bucs, and he had 3 targets, 2 catches for 11 yards in week 1 against the Saints. And then he had 1 catch for 2 yards in week 9 when they played the Saints. He also dropped a pass on the sideline in that game. He had 6 targets. He dropped a pass along the sideline in the beatdown last year, and he dropped a touchdown at the beginning of the third quarter in the back of the end zone. So it wasn't a good game for him. Then you go to the playoffs last year, and 5 targets, 1 catch, 14 yards. Another miserable game against the Saints for Rob Gronkowski. And he had a chance at a couple plays down the field and didn't make them. It's so weird to criticize Rob Gronkowski at all because he's as effective, a player as he is. Then obviously the week 8 game against the Saints, he plays 6 snaps. He goes out with back spasms. He got the 1 target near the goal line, contested catch, couldn't come up with it with Malcolm Jenkins on him. He just hasn't been able to get in a rhythm against the Saints at all. Like they just haven't been able to. Malcolm Jenkins, they have guard him. They play a lot of dime defense, a lot of nickel defense, and they still defend the run well, and they have kind of unique bodies to match up with people. That's been part of it. But he and Malcolm Jenkins have had absolute battles. And Jenkins has won more than I thought that Jenkins would win. But Gronk is playing better than he's played at any point in those other games. And I think that will aid him. So I think he's a player that needs to step up for the Bucs. I don't think he's played that great against the Saints, and that needs to change moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of playing great, okay, so I know that we probably have a lot of folks in here that like to do fantasy football, whether it's your own fantasy league, whether it's with Underdog Fantasy, one of our proud partners here on the Pewter Report podcast, or maybe even getting into some wagering, right? Some wagering action on MyBookie. So if you are a MyBookie or an Underdog Fantasy subscriber, customer, if you have an interest in fantasy football, let me tell you about this new partner that we're speaking with here. This is ASX Sports. Now, the beauty of ASX is it's free to play. So all you have to do is download the ASX Sports app on either Google, Android or Apple, and you can play. Now, what makes this cool is you can do live in-game trading. Like this is like a stock market for sports. And so it's not just one of these things where you have to get in your picks before the game, you set it and forget it. This is a thing where you can win throughout the game by making the proper trades and getting the best players during the game as it happens. So again, the beauty of this is it's a brand new company, brand new sports app. It's a brand new game. And the thing is download this because it's free to play. You don't even have to deposit any money. There's no money to deposit. But the best thing is you can win a part of a prize pool of $500 this Sunday night playing during the Saints-Bucs game. So make sure you check out ASX Sports. It's the next generation fantasy sports app that allows fans to trade shares and players in-game. So unlike any other fantasy games, in ASX athletes, you're going to receive fantasy dividends based on their real performance during the game. Touchdowns, interceptions, sacks, tackles, passing, and rushing yards, etc. So this weekend, in partnership with Pewter Report, ASX is featuring the New Orleans Saints in the Bucs game. This is an exclusive Pewter Report contest for our listeners, subscribers, with a prize pool of $500. So that's something that should excite you guys. And here's the best part.
It's awesome.
Get in the game. It's free to play. Go to the App Store, Google Play, or download ASX and register for the private Saints-Bucs game. The entry code is 5983. That's 5983. Then get ready to go to the contest IPO, which is going to open 24 hours before the start of the game. That's when you pick your players. ASX is going to give you $1,000 fantasy dollars to invest in the contest and buy shares in your favorite players. You must pick a minimum of 3 athletes to join. That entry code is 5983 to join that game.
5983. That sounds awesome. Sounds, again, new and innovative ways to kind of play football games. Got to be like the most exciting thing to fans as they're listening to the show. So make sure y'all check out ASX Sports. It sounds like an awesome thing, and obviously helps out Pewter Report son, but also will give you the opportunity to get some money and to just have a ton of fun playing something like this. So I love it.
Yep. For more information, you can check out our Facebook page. We've got some information on ASX Plus. We're also going to be tweeting about it throughout the weekend. So all they're looking for is you guys to sign up for the free app and play the free game, and maybe you have a chance to win some money on Sunday night.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I got the Saints injury report that was tweeted out from someone earlier today from our good friend Nick Underhill, who covers the Saints. He said did not practice. Ryan Ramczyk and Teron Armstead, so both tackles did not practice. I don't think Armstead practiced last week, but he played. Ramczyk did not play last week, I believe, and did not practice either, obviously. And then Caden Ellis and Garrett Griffin limited were Little Jordan Humphrey, Pete Werner, and Marcus Davenport for the Saints, and then CJ Gardner-Johnson and Taysom Hill both practiced in full. So it looks like Gardner-Johnson will be able to go. Probably good news for Bucs fans if you watched him against Chris Godwin. And then Pete Werner as well played really well last time, and so did Marcus Davenport against the Bucs. So it looks like those guys are trending toward playing, and then we'll just see about Ryan Ramczyk. That's obviously the big one to watch for this week if you're the Bucs, because that matchup with he and probably Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett's moving all around these days, but he played most halves on the left side this past week. But he played around some on the right, and everybody's got to move around these days with the Bucs.
That's right,
because Jason Pierre-Paul's not playing as much, and
exactly
not playing well when he's out there.
And John, I talked about how Leonard Fournette on the offensive side has got to be the one to step up. I'm going to also mention another injured player. The defensive guy that has to step up is Antoine Winfield. The Bucs are going to need him on Sunday because it's still touch and go whether Jordan Whitehead's going to be available for this game. They got to have Winfield. And you go back to some of the big games that he's had, right? That 2-point conversion pass breakup against the Giants last year.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to the big momentum changing interception he had against the Colts. And look no further than the last time that the Bucs beat the Saints, right? It was Antoine Winfield Jr. punching out the ball, Jared Cook in the second half. That was a key takeaway, one of the Bucs' 4 takeaways there. And so if you go back and look at Antoine Winfield's 4 games versus the Saints, John, in his rookie debut back in week 1 last year, 6 tackles and a pass breakup. In that 38-3 beatdown, courtesy of New Orleans, 7 tackles.
Yeah.
He had 4 tackles and a pass breakup in this last game on Halloween. But what was the difference? The difference was the 6 tackles and the forced fumble. He's got to make a splash play, whether it's a sack fumble against Taysom Hill, whether it's an interception, or whether it's knocking the ball free from a tight end, receiver, running back's hands. I think Antoine Winfield Jr. has got to be the player that really steps up and creates that momentum-changing takeaway for the Bucs.
I agree with you, and he did it last time. Really, I mean, remember he had an interception back at the end zone that thwarted a Saints scoring drive, and that was Will Golston's penalty. And then he dropped an interception. He broke on a route wonderfully. He played great against the Saints last time, I felt like. But those 2, he had 2 chances there, and one was taken from by penalty, and the other one, couldn't come up with it. So, but you're right. He's a player absolutely that has to step up. William Butler, we appreciate this $5 super chat. This is a must win for this team. The Bucs need to play this game like they're on the brink of missing the playoffs. I think this is a great point because for the Saints, everything actually is on the line.
That's right.
For the Bucs, everything they want will probably be achieved whether they win this game or not. Probably, I say, the 1 seed would be the one thing that probably is out of the question if they were to lose this game. Tom Brady's MVP candidacy, though, we'll see. I mean, this is a huge game for that because I think the rest of the 3 games will probably
Sunday night prime time.
But right, it'll be a huge game. And by the way, Aaron Rodgers happens to play the worst pass defense in the NFL and the Ravens this week. And so, he's got a prime opportunity in front of him, and Brady's got a much tougher challenge with the Saints, especially considering that they're getting healthy. So it's huge for his MVP candidacy, Scott. It's huge for winning the division against the Saints. It's huge for not getting swept by the Saints. I mean, that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. If you're the division winner, but the team you hate the most has swept you in. I mean, it's like an asterisk division win. I mean, it's
exactly what I was thinking. If the Buccaneers win this, and they're eventually going to, right? It would feel like a little bit of an asterisk because they did not beat the team that had the crown before him.
The playoffs, the 1 seed is on the line. I mentioned Brady's MVP candidacy as well. Not getting swept by the Saints. There's a lot of pride stuff on the line for the Bucs in this game in terms of all those things might happen anyway, the playoffs and probably not the 1 seed, but Brady winning MVP and winning the division, all those things. But you want to be able to win in this game. I just think there's no question about it.
It's going to take
this one like a must win.
It's going to take some players, John, stepping up to beat the Saints. I've already given my 2.
Yeah.
You go ahead and give yours, and Casey Hudson's on deck. She's going to be giving her Buccaneers who must step up to beat the Saints as I step out, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to get your thoughts and your insights, Scott. We appreciate it, obviously. And Casey jumping in here to give us your thoughts now. What's up, Casey? On a great Thursday. How's it going?
Oh, it's going. I'm 2.5 Celsius is deep and now starting on some coffee. So
2.5 in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, it started at 5 o'clock this morning. My day started at 4:30, so hence why I need all the caffeine right now. But
I don't even
know. It's a good day. It's a good Thursday.
Why you've needed that much caffeine?
Well,
that's a lot.
Starting with instructing, I have to be the person who's excited first thing in the morning. So that's bittersweet because
the Celsius is carrying you.
It. Yeah. But
well,
we're here.
Glad it's sustaining you. That's good. It's good to hear. You are here. You look energetic, and so I think we're ready to go for your 2 Bucs that you believe need to step up for this game against the Saints. We'll take 1 offense, 1 defense. You can just do the offensive one if you want, and then I'll go defense, and we can go back to you for defense because I think JC's jumping in here too. So who do you got? Who's the offensive player? Is it Brashad Perryman that needs to step up?
Get out of my head, John. That's a problem. But in all seriousness, not just because of everything that's taken place in the past week and whatnot. It's just the fact of, if you're going to take a spot from a guy like Scotty Miller or Tyler Johnson, who are supposed to be the future of this franchise or who need to be in more of a grooming position, then you got to really be more consistent. So, I need Brashad Perriman to be a lot more consistent. It's got to come down to making more catches than just the last play of the game. The game. If that was not, the most important catch, but imagine how much more effective you can be if you could do that consistently throughout a game. So,
absolutely.
Pulled up his stats and stuff and just kind of looked at what he did when he was with the Bucs in 2019. And, I think he only had under 20 yards in the first game versus the Saints. And then the next game, it doesn't even look like his name was on the roster or he didn't get any reps. So to have that kind of production in 2019, to come back with a couple people having high hopes with you, and then to do what you did on Sunday, now it's time to carry that momentum from Sunday, add some consistency to it, and really help spread this team out. Because if there's no Antonio Brown, then, you need that reliable speedster, and he could be it.
Yeah, so no question. It's critical. I mean, look at any game that the Bucs have played the Saints, and especially when they've been able to find and have success. Scotty Miller last year had made a huge play in the playoffs. Tyler Johnson made a huge play to convert a third down with that great back shoulder catch. I mean, that you can go on and on about times where the Bucs, when they've been able to keep it competitive for play. Scotty Miller in week 1 last year when Godwin and Evans were playing, he was fantastic. He had like 80-some yards receiving, and that wide receiver 3 has been critical. And really, they didn't get that production, whatever you want to look at. It was Antonio Brown's first game with the team. There were a lot of route miscommunications. That midseason game last year against Saints, nobody had any idea what they were doing. There was too many moving pieces. They were totally unprepared. And so, but that's what I mean. That wide receiver 3 spot, when somebody stepped up against the Saints in that spot, it's helped this offense a lot. Right. And even last time against the Saints, in what Tyler Johnson had his best game of the year, I believe, in that wide receiver 3 role. Let me check real quick, but I think he had like 5 catches for 46 yards, made a nice play down the sideline, did drop a pass late in the game, but I'm pretty sure that was his most productive game this year. 5 catches, 65 yards against the Saints. So that you're right. Whoever plays that wide receiver 3 role, whether it's Johnson or whether it's Perryman, obviously they have Gronkowski this time around. Last time around, he barely played those 6 snaps and bowed out with injury again. You're right. That's a critical role for this game. That player needs to be better.
If you look at it this way as well, when you start getting to this part of the season, gearing into playoffs and whatnot, everyone's watched so much film on one another. So you really kind of start relying on those guys that they're not the heaviest name on the team, but they can still make productive plays. And that's crucial, because then you're giving a look that they couldn't really plan for, or you can, again, kind of have those tricks up your sleeve and switch things up, add some versatility to the playbook. So it is very crucial that wide receiver 3 slot be productive and not just there because they're queuing in on Mike Evans, or, Chris Godwin's got to make every crucial catch on the field. You have to be that guy that can step up and, be in alignment with an Evans and a Godwin and bring something to the team. So I would like to see a lot more out of Perriman or anyone in that wide receiver 3 slot.
Yeah, the more you talk about it, the more I think you're right. It's critical for this game. I mean, last time they played the Saints, they didn't have Gronkowski. They didn't have Antonio Brown. They won't have Antonio Brown for this one, obviously, either. Tyler Johnson, Rashad Perriman will probably absorb most of that role, and they'll split it in whatever capacity, the Bucs see fit. But those guys need to make plays. And it's not even like last year where even that matchup was a tough one for the Bucs to win because the Saints had so many good players on the field. And I think Antonio Brown in the playoffs, if I'm remembering this right, people can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure he got hurt in the first quarter or something like that. So he barely even played in that matchup. So they really, that's been every time they play the Saints, it feels like they're missing that guy. Obviously, the Saints are missing plenty of players too, so no excuses. But the way the Saints play defense, they're going to do a lot of bracketing with Chris Godwin in the middle of the field, and they're going to probably roll Marcus Williams a lot of the time to where Mike Evans is when he's going vertical, and obviously they put their number 1 corner on him. And Evans did toast up Lattimore pretty good last time, but still that's going to be definitely a matchup to watch. And so, whoever that wide receiver 3 role is and or Gronkowski, they need to be guys who win matchups a lot more in this game because they're there to win in this matchup. I mean, the Saints do not have as good a depth at corner as they've had in the past, I should say. And so there are matchups to be won there for those guys. Okay, defensively, Casey, what are you thinking? Is there a player that stands out in your mind that's like, man, this guy's got to be better on Sunday?
Sometimes I hate when you guys do this because I can't pick one, but I'm not going to be JC. So
there you go.
I'm just kidding, JC. I really want to pick the entire Bucs secondary because at this point, I'm sorry, I don't care that there's been injuries. We're at the end of the season, and we've seen that when there's turnovers is when the Bucs put themselves in prime positioning to win games, which is fantastic. But that can't always come down to the interior. That can't always come down to the edge rushers. That has to start coming up in the secondary. If you look over the course of the season, how many interceptions or, pick sixes or anything that there's been, it's been very underwhelming. I think in the past 2 games, there wasn't, or there was the Richard Sherman pick, but that was still kind of like that wasn't anything flashy. So I guess if I have to dial in on the secondary, and some people are not going to love this, but, Sean Murphy Bunting, he came back from his injury and he had a hell of a game, his first game back.
He did.
And then all of a sudden it was just kind of like, he's there, he's not there. Then the next game, he looked very out of it, extremely confused. And then you guys were texting about him on Monday, and I had to respond back and be like, did he play on Sunday? Because I didn't see him. I didn't hear his name.
Some good things about it. Like, we didn't get to see him get torched down the field, but you're right. It was very quiet. He was on.
I had no clue that he was suited up. And that's not for me to be like rude or nitpick or, anything. It's just the fact that he's showed flashes of being useful. He showed flashes of doing great things in the secondary, but he's been inconsistent consistently. The only thing he's been consistent at is being inconsistent. Yeah. But I had high hopes when he returned because he did very well. I think he had like 8+ tackles on his return, and then they've just kind of slowly demised game by game. Mm-hmm. I know that the team as a whole did very well against the Bills defensively. So yes, everyone's tackles are kind of up there because I think combined he has 8, but still, he should be one of those guys out there getting interceptions and going up against a quarterback like Taysom Hill. If Trevor Siemian did what he did to the Bucs, Taysom Hill's always been an issue, especially when he gets out of that pocket. Look at any game since Taysom Hill has been in a Saints jersey. When they put him in the third quarter or the fourth quarter, he started creating some issues. And thank God the clock was running down if the Bucs had a lead, because then it didn't give him enough time. But giving him enough time in general could be a scary thing. And you can't just rely on the blitz. You can't just rely on your interior, because if he gets out of that pocket and gets past those guys, then it becomes everybody else's issue.
It's weird because the Bucs have faced him a bunch, but they haven't faced him as a quarterback at all. So there is definitely some level to it of unknown to it in terms of them having played him. Obviously, they've seen him play quarterback, but even that's been limited, and it's looked different throughout the matchups that they faced. Yeah. Like, there were games. The Broncos game last year when Kendall Hinton was their quarterback for that wide receiver, because all their other quarterbacks were on the COVID list. I mean, Taysom Hill did threw like one pass in that game or something crazy. Like, they barely even let him do anything. So he's had a weird, obviously the whole career with Taysom Hill has been very weird, but I fully believe that the Bucs, defensively, to have success in this game, it really starts with Shaq Barrett, who I actually have written about a ton today, by the way. I'm going to plug
Shaq
all the stuff.
Day.
It's a big Shaq Barrett day, so I had to pick him for this game. I wrote an article about how Shaq Barrett deserves his respect. He has played at that level now for 3 seasons for the Bucs. We don't need to have any more questions about who Shaq Barrett is. We know who he is. Mm-hmm. He's not a tier 1 edge rusher in the NFL, but he's a very good edge rusher, and you'd be hard-pressed to name 10 guys better than him in the league right now. He's done it 3 years in a row, producing pressures, producing sacks, and coming up in big moments as well in games, including the playoffs last year. We know who he is. We need to stop asking questions. But he also, these are the games. They need him to show up. The Saints, some people have bemoaned the fact that he's only had 1 sack against the Saints, I think, and maybe his career, at least in the recent games against the Saints. But part of the problem is the Saints max protected so much with Drew Brees that they were always helping on Shaq Barrett. And the Saints have great tackles anyway, so it's hard enough to win. And, so you add those other elements to it. The other part of it that's impossible to quantify is how quickly the Saints got rid of the ball the last 2 years. Brees was getting the ball out faster than anybody else in the league. So I don't even think Shaq Barrett's played that bad against the Saints. Like, they've hardly run the ball on the Bucs other than what they did with Taysom Hill in that game where they blew the Bucs out. But that was just because they had so many opportunities more than anything in that game, because of the way that the score avalanched so fast on the Bucs. So I think Shaq's had played fine against the Saints. It's just that the scheme hasn't given him many opportunities to get home. With Taysom Hill, that's going to be, you would think, a different story, just because he will hold the ball a little bit longer. If you take away that first read, the coverage aspect is back a little bit for the Bucs. And then Ryan Ramczyk might not be playing for the Saints too, the right tackle. So I think that it becomes even more critical and kind of essential to make sure that you can get Shaq Barrett going in this game. So find him matchups, get him opportunities so he can win, Casey, because that's your difference maker player, as I pointed out in the all 22 Shaq Barrett film room that you can check out right now on Pewter Report's YouTube. Go over there, check it out, hit the thumbs up button on it. I think it's a pretty fun video. I love talking about pass rushers, so I got pretty excited in it. And Casey made an unbelievable graphic for it. If you've noticed, we have those all 22 graphics that are going now. We got like a different look for the all 22 ones. That's all K Huddy over here. They look great, man. It's awesome. I love it.
K Huddy.
Make sure you check that out. K Huddy. That's your artist name, I think, now.
I'm a fan of it. I would prefer if everyone referred to me as K Huddy from here on out.
Okay, can we do that for real?
No, seriously.
Oh,
you can even put it in like descriptions and stuff whenever it comes down to it.
Totally down. Because I'm like pretty big on like nicknames. So yeah, K Huddy it is. But now we got to call JC something. All my names for JC, all that I've come up with, I'm not going to use on the podcast because
I know. I was going to say one of them, the most recent one.
Yeah, they all have to do with his podcast appearances, and
he's got to do something different.
He brings it on himself. He really does. And he's supposed to be on today's show, and he's not even. I don't even see him in here. So we're probably going to have to wrap without his thoughts. What a shame. Who would he have picked? Who would he have picked in memoriam to JC? Who would he have picked for today's show? Nick Leverett.
I'm surprised nobody picked Blaine Gabbert. But he's perfect.
Scott should have picked Blaine Gabbert.
I thought he was going to say it for a second when he was talking about Celsius, and I was like, he's about to say Gabbert. But who could I see JC picking?
I think he picked Tom Brady offensively, right? Because that's his guy. But also
Tom Brady.
Yeah, Brady. Some of the stuff against the Saints has been over dramatized, I think, but there's no question he needs to do some things better. There have been some ill-advised throws at times, but like
in the last 3 games alone.
Yeah, and even last game, the first interception again, not on him. And there's been some of those bounces against the Saints at times, like the game where they were getting killed last year, and he's just throwing it up on some of those. Like he's getting sacked on 4th down and he throws it up. Like that's not like there's a lot of context needed for some of those plays. What the Mike Evans messed up the route in week 1 last year and throws a pick as a result. So I don't really think it's that like he can't figure out the Saints. I think last year was just like I had barely played with the team that I'm playing with, and these guys on the other side have played together.
And a veteran like Drew Brees in the pocket. That was a lot of the big discussion leading into a Saints game was the fact that you have this guy who has so much experience, who can put out so many looks, and then he's working with a coach like Sean, and it was just the perfect matchup between quarterback and coach, and then he's coming in trying to build that relationship with Bruce Arians. And then, of course, media likes to try to create all sorts of headlines. So for the longest time, it was just Tom Brady and Bruce Arians get along and whose playbook are they going to run? All that nonsense. Yep. So it was an acclimation period. It clearly showed because as the season went on, they started to find it. And you're still kind of seeing a little bit of it now. That's what I kind of think some of the Brashad Perriman issue is you have to learn your quarterback. And there's only one Tom Brady. I don't think he's the most predictable quarterback that you just join on a team with him, figure out his ways, his superstitions, his, all his isms and figure it out right away and become productive. I think everybody has to have their acclimation period because you still see some plays sometimes where it's like, okay, was that Brady or was that Evans? And then in press conferences, you find out, okay, Evans kind of needed to tweak something there.
Right. Hey, I had my acclimation period to Underdog Fantasy, Casey, and let me tell you, I won 3 of my first 4 bets that I put down at Underdog Fantasy. I absolutely love it. It's great stuff. You can bet over-unders on player prop bets. So you go into Underdog Fantasy, put in a deposit. Let's say you want to put in $50 to play with. They're going to match your deposit. Whatever your first deposit is, when you use the promo code Pewter, Pewter, they're going to match it. So if you put in 50, they'll put in 50 more. You got $100 to play with. And then you can go and do a bunch of different things. They have tournaments. They have best ball leagues starting right now for next season. Even if you're getting ready to get a jump on that and get a jump on the competition, you can do that. If you like other sports, I'm a huge NBA fan. I had a player parlay going last night and I won both. I won a couple bucks on the parlay. And I gets me amped up. Late at night, midnight, and Desmond Bain for the Grizzlies goes off I'm feeling it, man. Around midnight, he goes off in the 4th quarter. I'm telling you, I was pumped. So anyway, it adds an intrigue of fun to the game. I got a couple going tonight. I got Travis Kelce to score a touchdown tonight, and I'm going tight ends tonight. And I got Donald Parham, the Chargers' 2nd string tight end. I just need 11 yards from you, my guy. Can you give me 11 yards, big guy? That's all I need. That's all I need from him. That's what I got going tonight, though, with an opportunity to win a couple bucks. What's great about these parlays, you can do up to pick 5, and you can win up to 20 times the amount of money you put in. So you put in $2, you got a great chance to win a lot of money if you can get a pick 5 to hit. And so it's awesome stuff. Go to Underdog Fantasy and hit that promo code Pewter, Pewter, to get double your first deposit right now. Really fun stuff with all those guys. And if you're looking to get more involved in any of these sports conversations, Spotify Green Room is the place to go, especially if you're into fantasy football. A lot of great chat rooms on here. You can talk music, sports, culture, all of it, movies, whatever. It's all on Spotify Green Room. You can jump in, you can take the mic, you can voice your opinion and be a part of these conversations. You can download it on the App Store, get it on Google Play as well. It's awesome stuff with our friends over at Spotify Green Room. And I love to say that he is, in fact, here, Casey. The man, the myth, the legend himself, JC Allen, has made it onto the show.
Trying to find you a nickname, guy.
We are. We're trying to find – and I think you're muted. Are you muted? Speak, JC. No, you're just very quiet.
Low.
Oh, okay. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you. Okay. So give us your offensive player that needs to step up against the Saints this week for the Bucs.
So there's many routes you can go, right? You guys cover.
No, not on the fence.
cover tight end. Covered running back, and I'm going to stick with running back because I'll tell you, Leonard Fournette already asking about Grand Theft Auto on his PC. Hasn't been in practice. It worries me. All right, it worries me. I'm not sure if Lenny's going to be able to go on Sunday. So instead of picking the obvious choice of Ronald Jones, we're going to go even deeper down the roster. We're going to go with Keyshawn Vaughan here. Keyshawn Vaughan, Gio out. If Lenny can't play, if it's Rojo and Keyshawn Vaughan, he's going to have to step up. He's going to have to be able to come in because we know how ineffective Rojo can be. And it's going to be his time to show that opportunity that he can go out there and he can actually contribute to this offense because he's the only running back left on the roster next year. You look at a guy like Keyshawn Barner, who they just signed. They also have to be honest, I forget his name, but he's a running back from the Chiefs. John knows.
Darwin Thompson. Yeah. I forgot he was on
Darwin Thompson. Out there. Yeah. They have him there as well. And now that the COVID rules have eliminated protection, elevations, you can elevate players as many times as you need to. It used to just be 2 elevations per.
So they can be very flexible with that part.
So they can be flexible. They can pick up either one of those guys. We know Keyshawn Barnes' experience last year with the Bucs as a return man, had only 1 target, no rushes. But I think Keyshawn Vaughn's guy, he's got to step up if Lenny can't go. And as of right now, we're on a Thursday, still hasn't practiced that we know of. We'll get better, clearer picture tomorrow. And today, actually, after the injury report comes, it's Keyshawn Vaughan. It's going to have to step up and really, really prove that, hey,
just came through.
Here
Injury
we
report.
go. Here we go.
You spoke it into existence, JC.
Injury report. Tom Brady did not participate. He was resting.
Oh, no.
He was resting. Jamel Dean did not participate. Leonard Fournette did not participate.
Yep.
Richard Sherman and Jordan Whitehead was limited, and Antoine Winfield did not participate as well. So no real surprises, but also no clarity either. They're being cautious with all those guys for now, and then we'll see how many of those could actually affect status.
Non-injury related, what is Tom Brady being held out for?
Resting. Old.
44-year-old bones, Jason.
Yeah. You know Bruce had to fight him on that too.
We already went through, I believe, the Saints injury reports. everybody should be aware of that. That was a little earlier in the show. Looks like everything I read you before is correct looking at their injury report now.
You know what Scott would say, right?
What?
The Bucs are so dialed in this week. They're ready for T-shirts and hat that they had to get Gabbard a day of practice because he's going to come in and keep his undefeated streak alive.
Yes, you need him to get some number 1 reps. I agree with that. Great point there, JC. Another great point here is that you should be looking for your holiday gifts at Living Golf Life. If you know people who love getting out on the course, Living Golf Life is the way to go. LivingGolfLife.com. They've got these unbelievable and super comfortable golf polos, and they've got these awesome hats as well. They've got koozies, they've got glasses, they've got apparel. It's a great logo. It's a great company. They're great people. Great to support them and to support a sponsor of PewterReport.com. So make sure if you're looking for golf stuff for yourself or asking for gifts or getting them for someone else, go to LivingGolfLife.com. Follow them to see all their new stuff dropping at Living Golf Life on Instagram as well. And if you're looking for a great kids getting off school and you're going to have some free time, some time to do some stuff as a family with the holidays, this is a great place to go. Pin Chasers, bowling, food, and fun. Bowling leagues. You see the locations there on the screen for Pin Chasers, but Pin Chasers Bowling League. I mean, there's all you can eat pizza night. There's they serve, you can get breakfast anytime there, and the food is what everybody always goes crazy about. The food is awesome. Obviously, the bowling speaks for itself, but the food is, everybody raves about their food there. So check out Pin Chasers. Great night to have some food and some fun with your family out at Pin Chasers. Great thing to do over this holiday break that many are having now. All right, let's jump in here with your defensive player, JC. Who do you have as the defensive player that needs to step up for the Bucs in this game?
So listen, I like some of the choices that were out there. Obviously, the secondary as a whole, they could They could make some more splash plays, and Antoine Winfield Jr. certainly one of those. Shaq Barrett is a great choice. The article you wrote on him is great. If you haven't read it, head over to pewterreport.com and go read
Very
the
kind of you
article that John wrote. But I'm going to stick on that side of the ball, on that side, on the line right there. And Jason Pierre-Paul could definitely step it up. But I think at this point in the season, with the injuries he's battling, the JPP you see is the JPP you get. There's not going to be much more upside from him. But the guy who does have a lot of upside and really needs to come out and show out, it's going to be JTS, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. I think he needs to have a good game. He needs to go out there. He's got 4 or 5 sacks left on the field this year, John. I think it's 4 total this season, or is it 3 or 4?
He's got 3, I believe.
3 total. Yeah, let
like 5 missed tackles.
Yeah, so he's got to come out there and he's really got to step up. They're going to use him in a variety of ways, as they have been using him, as a down lineman, standing up. He's going to have to get after the quarterback, and he's going to have to wrap him up. He's got some Ryan Ramczyk not being 100%,
and maybe not playing too.
Is huge. You have to take advantage of that matchup. But we know how much they like to move Shaq and JTS around. But whoever has that matchup, if it's JTS, you got to win that matchup, and you gotta contain. Again, I've come to contain. I've been saying it. If you've read my previews every week, it's contain to these quarterbacks, because they haven't been able to do it.
Well, last time they played the Saints, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka played 8 snaps, and that's a huge problem in that game. A huge reason why they struggled. And the Saints, even if their tackles are healthy, they're great on the outside. They got question marks on the inside. Andres Pete, their left guard, out for the season. Cesar Ruiz, second-year player at right guard, he's been banged up some. He's not reached his peak yet as an NFL player. I think he'll keep getting better. So they've got some guard matchups that, again, Tryon-Shoyinka can win. If they get the Saints in a pass-heavy situation, you're right. This is a game where he could have multiple sacks. Got to throttle down, got to finish, but he could be a difference maker in this game.
It's going to come down to finishing, because if you look at the beginning of the Saints game on Halloween, it was how many missed wrap-ups in the first quarter alone. I mean, they made Jameis Winston look like an athlete, and that was saying a lot. Right. Nothing against Winston, but come on.
But it's not ridiculous. Right. It's the strongest he's looked in that area.
Season, huh?
Yeah, it's the strongest Winston's looked in that area. Was probably this past game against the Bucs with the 40 yards rushing in like a quarter or something. It was crazy.
They made him look so athletic.
I
was very confused. It freaked me out, and then just kept getting worse. So
they need to be better in that area. They need to be finishing, and they need to be winning more one-on-ones up front. The Saints, and it starts with getting a lead. It really does. Like, they've been in these nail biters. The Saints are trailed early in a lot of these games against the Saints. Even in the playoffs last year, they were trailing early in that game. And at some one point in that game, and so they need to be better for them, because especially now when they have this talent, get up a couple scores, make the Saints start having to throw the football. Now you've got a position of strength you can operate from. With their lack of weapons on the roster this season, their lack of great quarterback play, this is a matchup you can take advantage of in that regard. So great insights from both of you. I think you're spot on. I think you brought really creative answers to the table. Nobody even said Mike Evans, and probably because he stepped up so much in the last matchup, and Chris Godwin did as well, which is huge. That's got to continue, obviously.
Godwin does so well against the Saints. Like 2019, I think he had like 145 yards and then or 150 plus, and then this past game was 140 something. He just knows how to make those plays happen. But you said something great on the podcast with you and Scott about how when what's his face, the new quarterback, not new.
Taysom Hill.
There you go. Thank you. I'm drawing blank here. I have hockey on the brain as well.
2.5 Celsius is in.
Yes. And
I'm surprised you can even form sentences.
Taysom Hill, that his timing on the ball, the secondary should really have some fun with this game on Sunday. If they don't, then I'm going to be running into a brick wall here shortly, because at least 2 interceptions. That's all I'm asking for, Bucs, too.
Right.
Somebody said that I'm never pleased, but I'm not pleased when I know that they can do so much better.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. That defense needs to set the tone for this game and have one of their best games of the year. The offense, they're going to have, hopefully they have a good game. The opportunities in front of them. The Saints are going to be a tough defense, especially because they're pretty healthy defensively now. They're going to be a tough defense to like pile up points against, like they have in other opponents this season. But on the other side of things, man, no question, the Bucs defense needs to come out and have a confidence building, we owned this game type of performance. They have not had many of those this season. this needs to be one where the defense carries the team a little bit. So great points. I love it. We appreciate everybody jumping in here. Great comments and insight from everybody. And you can check out, there's a couple film rooms up on our YouTube. If you haven't seen them, make sure you go check out the all 22 film rooms and some of the recent podcasts. Yesterday, Scott and I previewed this matchup in depth on more of a team level. Today it was more of a player level. So it's all good stuff. Check out those shows. You can have all weekend to check them out too, because we're done until Sunday. We'll have the pregame show Sunday at 7:30, kickoff at 8:20 or 8:25 or whatever with Paul Atwell and I. We'll take you through the game. We'll be live analysis throughout the game. You'll be able to watch with us on our YouTube channel as we watch and react to what's happening in front of us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we'll have the post-game show, which hopefully is fun as well, because hopefully we get to have a victory post-game show celebrating a division title for the Bucs. A lot on stake. If they win this game, if they win in convincing fashion, if Brady plays well, I mean, it's probably a big bump for him in the MVP. The one seed stays alive. Like a lot of stuff to play for in this game. But
it's not just a t-shirt hat.
Not yet. That's right. Not until the final gun sounds in the game for sure. So we appreciate y'all jumping in here. We'll catch you on Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast.